Here comes the final run of the 309s again, this time at Chelmsford. As well as Clacton, they later appeared on the Ipswich and Harwich routes. Ultimately, the introduction of the Class 321s in the mid-90s led to their demise on the Eastern. A few later found work on prime rush hour services for regional railways northwest, as we have seen. Note the signal box built above the platforms, still in place but unused. Staying on the signalling front, a cluster of searchlight signalling can be found at Colchester. This is a double aspect, used where a double yellow is required. This is the Trafford Park to Ipswich Freightliner. The introduction of Class 170 units has enabled Anglia Railways to reinstate through services to destinations such as Yarmouth and Lowestoft. Heading for the North London line is the lightly loaded Harwich to Wembley Enterprise service. Wagons ceased using dedicated Class 322 units on their Stansted Expresses in October. The East Coast Main Line upgrade will see the end of the Welwyn bottleneck, as the line here will be quadrupled, resulting in a second tunnel. Two shots now of Class 86s on the East Coast Main Line. Here Newcastle United supporters are being carried to their doom at the FA Cup final at Wembley. On the Hertford Loop is a merrymaker to the northeast. Class 58s have been reinstated on the 1440 King's Cross to Ketton cement train, taking over from 66s. We move on to the Tilbury line. Following their withdrawal from the Birmingham suburban network, this is the last place to find Class 310s. It also seems to be the last place you'd find the weed killer. The preserved Hastings Denmu visited the freight-only Thameshaven branch during May on a Branch Line Society rail tour. Recently certified 34016 Bodmin started working a series of midweek excursions in the summer. Here she is, bound for Canterbury. Now a brief look at the Maidstone East line, with a 4 VEP glinting in the winter sunshine. This is the main route for freight to and from the Channel Tunnel, and here a 92 works the Dollans Moor to Dagenham car component train. Hertfordshire Rail Tours Kent Lunch was hauled by a Tatty 73106 on its final working in February. In March, a pair of Euro 37.6s worked the southern leg of the Medway Medicaster rail tour from Crewe. The first of 8 Class 460s finally entered service on the Gatwick Express this summer, 18 months late. The Gatwick 73s will be withdrawn this winter. This service is unusually double-headed. To complete the variety, a top and tailed version. The picturesque Boxhill line is seldom photographed. Here a Class 455 heads for Victoria. This is a line that suffers heavily in winter from leaf fall problems. To combat this, the Southern operates 20 Sandite units, of which 11, such as this one, have been converted from former Force sub-units. This is the Northern Belle. The South Western also sees cross-country services running to Bournemouth and Poole. The stock for Bodmin's midweek excursions is moved from the Mid-Hants to Waterloo by Red 33021. As usual, Royal Ascot Week saw plenty of special workings. This is the Queen of Scots from Victoria. On to the Hounslow Loop with the Orient Express, again from Victoria. The Northern Belle from Manchester saw Blue Deltic 55019 in charge. Some of the Ascot specials were stored in London during the day. This one is en route to Bounds Green. The stock returns later in the day, this time hauled by Prince William. Barnes Bridge Station was completely rebuilt in the summer. Passing the site during the in-between stage is a 4 VEP bound for Reading. These units will soon be joined by Class 458s on this route. On the main line, a Class 73 works the Southampton Docker in January. The North Downs line joins at Wokingham Junction. This route is used by the Blackpool to Portsmouth service, which until the commencement of the summer timetable saw top and tailed 47s work one of the 2 Saturday journeys. The first line to receive Class 458 units was the Alton line. We'll have a look at this route while slam door stock was in sole operation. The Orient Express sometimes uses the line for its brunch specials, top and tailing to Aldershot and back. Incidentally, it's the army you can hear shooting each other. The line features 3 signal boxes. The one at Ash Vale controls the junction with the Ascot line. A second box controls the Aldershot area, while a third controls Farnham and beyond. The present terminus is Alton. However, the route continues as the preserved Mid-Hants line. This originally ran to Winchester, but through services were withdrawn following electrification to Alton in 1937. Demues replaced steam in 1957, but closure followed in 1973. The Watercress, as the line has become known, ran its first train in 1977 and operates as far as Alresford. Arriving at the dedicated platform at Alton is the line's S15. During March, the line hosted the Train Spotters Ball and featured visiting freight locos in combination with the line's residents. This is Freightliner's 57011 with one of the line's 233s. This is the line's other 33, D6593, in original livery, heading for Alton. Here the line's class 27 double heads, with recently withdrawn celebrity 37906 named Star of the East for the event. The 37-9s were unusual in that they were powered by Ruston engines, which gave a totally different sound to their more common English electric sisters. Plenty of opportunity was given to hear the engines in action. Paddington is the only London terminus to regularly see diesels. In fact, their numbers increased during the summer following the reintroduction of a motor rail service by the Great Western. Note the 2-car carrying vans at the front of this Penzance-bound train. Otherwise, it's the few Virgin cross-country services that provide an opportunity to see diesel haulage. Res 47s were replaced by brand new Class 67s in March. Caught on the Greenford Loop is the short-lived Old Oak to Willesden stock move, brought about following the temporary closure of Euston's Res depot during station reconstruction. A tour promoting the latest Harry Potter adventure saw Tor Valley painted red and masquerading as the Hogwarts Express, a train featured in the book. This is the 9:05 Paddington to Manchester. Meanwhile, the main bulk of services on the Western are still provided by HSTs, first introduced in 1976. Following the introduction of the 67s, Res 47s were going spare. Virgin subsequently snapped up a few to supplement their own unreliable fleet. We'll firstly head north. Locos are stabled at Didcot. This 47 is substituting for a failed HST on the Bournemouth to Edinburgh service. The preserved Hastings Demu had a run out to Weston-super-Mare in February. Wackiest combination of the year has to be the two 73s and a 60 on the southern leg of the Weaving Weasel rail tour from Sheffield to Eastleigh. A 37 shunt stock for an engineer's train. This corridor sees the most intensive use of diesels in the south. This is the Lindsay to Langley fuel oil service. We'll now retrace our steps and pick up where we left off at Reading. Heading for the southwestern is the Leeds-Southampton Freightliner. Now heading west is the Dartmoor Pony, the first Merrymaker excursion to be 66 hauled. Work was carried out on the disused middle platform at Taunton to enable it to be reinstated in time for the start of the summer timetable. At the time of our visit, 67s had yet to take over completely from 47s. This is the 1352 Plymouth to Bristol. Heading for St Blaise is 60006, one of only two Class 60s in British steel livery, with MT China clay wagons from Cliff Vale. Taunton is where cross-country services from Birmingham via the Lickey Incline join. Going like a rocket is the late-running Glasgow to Penzance. Meanwhile, this is the Plymouth to Low Fell Postal. All services stop at Exeter. This is the 1150 Plymouth to Liverpool. Followed by a scrap train to Cardiff. The first 67 working in the area was the 1220 Bristol to Plymouth empty mail vans. We move on to the famous Dawlish seawall section and the early morning 6:30 Plymouth to Reading. This is the Burngallow to Warrington China clay train, known as the Silver Bullets. The steam loco was to work the Dawlish donkey. A 60 works the 1333 St Blaise to Exeter China clay train. Gala is where the Penzance and Paignton lines diverge. We'll first take a look at the Paignton branch. This only sees locos on summer Saturdays. Although Paignton is the current terminus, the line continues but in private hands. This is the Paignton and Dartmouth Steam Railway, which the Dart Valley Railway Company took over following closure in 1972. Another steam line in the area is the South Devon Railway in Totnes. This opened in 1969 following the line's original closure to passengers in 1958 and freight in 1962. The headquarters is at Buckfastleigh, where the sheds and a museum are situated.
The 12:15 train for Totnes calling at Staverton will be leaving shortly. Please ensure you purchase a ticket before boarding.
Tiny is the last surviving broad gauge locomotive, built in 1868 to work the Plymouth Harbour branch. It was retired in the 1920s, by which time it had become a stationary boiler at Newton Abbot. And this is the fifth oldest coach found in a field in the 1970s. Back on the main line, this is the Penzance to Manchester cross-country service. Old and new together as the 67 and 47 double-head the Bristol to Plymouth empty mail vans. A problem for westbound services is that the 1 in 66 climb of Rattery Bank starts at the end of the station platforms. Local services are mainly in the hands of Class 158s. The majority of cross-country services in the west start from and terminate at Plymouth. Connecting Devon and Cornwall is the Royal Albert Bridge, the only railway carrying suspension bridge in the world. Built by Brunel, it was completed in 1859 and is 733 yards long. It carries a single track and speed is limited to 15 miles an hour. This is one of the few loco-hauled services in Cornwall, the 8:48 cross-country Penzance to Manchester. Cement forms one of the two major freight flows in Cornwall and provides the only booked working for a 37 in the southwest. It is delivered in both slurry and bagged form from Earl's Sidings, Tunstead, and taken as far as Liskeard by a 66. A 37 then takes it down to the distribution centre at Moorswater, located underneath the main line. After unloading, the 37 takes the empties to St Blaise, where a 66 will return them north. Here they cross Moorswater Viaduct. And now, Bodmin Parkway. The other major freight flow in Cornwall is China Clay. A comparatively new preserved railway is the Bodmin and Wenford, running to Boscarn Junction. The western approach to Bodmin is on a gradient of 1 in 65. China clay is also sent to Foy for export, having been tripped from various points in the Par area and running round at Lostwithiel. A China clay train from Burngallow reaches St Blaise by running round in Par Station. By the summer, all 47 hauled postal duties had been taken over by 67s. This is the empty stock movement from St Blaise to Penzance, ready for the evening's TPO to London. And this is the corresponding morning empty working. The end of the line is at Penzance. We are 305 miles away from Paddington, 5 hours by HST or 6 hours by Class 47. This is the 1203 motor rail from Paddington. Here the stock arrives for the evening's TPO. The good thing about the TPO is that you can still post letters to your loved one on the train itself. The train departs as the 1930 Penzance to Bristol and London. Finally from Penzance, this is one of only 2 cross-country workings, the 0840 from Glasgow. We finish back in Devon with the Dawlish donkey, working an evening service from Exeter to Newton Abbot.